My name is Dan Watson, and for the last 3 years I've been the principal conductor of the People's Orchestra. The People's Orchestra had been a fairly new organisation, and I was aware of it because I was living and working in Birmingham. It seemed to me like a really, really exciting organisation, and I wanted to be a part of it. The job for principal conductor became open. There was a vacancy, and I applied. I sent my CV and application to Sarah, and she rejected it. So that was my first attempt at trying to be involved in the orchestra. A little while later I met Amy, one of Sarah's daughters. She was playing horn for me with a different group, and through that connection Sarah invited me to conduct a few rehearsals, and then I was offered the full-time role. My first concert was a collection of music that came under the umbrella of Out of This World, and we had lots of music from the movies like E.T. and Star Wars and Back to the Future and that sort of thing, I think. Mind you, you're testing my memory now, it was a little while ago. Early 2016, Sarah and I both noticed an advert that was put out by the BBC for an upcoming programme called The Great Orchestra Challenge. It appealed to us both, and the idea was that we would need to submit an application to the BBC to take part. It's a bit like the Bake Off, but for orchestras. And we looked through all the different application material and came up with a proposal and submitted an application. I was really excited about it from day one because I felt like the orchestra has a really, really unique remit with everything that it does in the community. And I remember talking in my little video clip application that I felt that the orchestra had a really, really strong social conscience with everything it does with the volunteer programme and so on. Secondly, I feel like the orchestra's got a really genuine and strong social conscience, and it's made a big impact in the local community by offering work placements and volunteering opportunities, which has genuinely led to further work for these individuals, and I really like being part of an orchestra that's making a difference. So we put ourselves forward, we recorded some footage of the orchestra performing and put in our application, and before we knew it the BBC were coming to see our rehearsals and see if we would fit the programme. We were invited to take part, which was tremendously exciting. I remember for the very first episode, there were 5 orchestras that were invited. There was the London Gay Orchestra, there's the North Devon Orchestra, the Stirling Orchestra, the Slaithwaite Orchestra from Yorkshire, and us, People's Orchestra. And in the first programme, we were invited to perform a version of the 4th movement from Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique, and we went down to Maida Vale Studios and recorded the episode. Maida Vale is one of the most favourite venues that I've ever conducted in, because the room was just so helpful for the orchestra. The orchestra worked well in there, but it just made you want to do well. It sort of lended itself to that sort of music, and it just felt really, really good to conduct and play in there. And we got through that episode. That was all very exciting.
I regret to say that the orchestra will not be continuing to the next round of our contest is the Slaithwaite Philharmonic.
There was the whole
Very
line-up
sorry.
thing in front of the judges, And Sarah and I were stood very, very close together whilst we were given our feedback from our performance from the judge, Paul Daniel, and they really, really did give a long time before saying, and the orchestra who will not be joining us will be Slaithwaite. I was like, it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I'm more nervous doing that than conducting, not lying. Anyway, so we made it through to the second round, and then we went up to Manchester, and we were working on some operatic repertoire, and we played the Toreador song from Carmen. And that was the time when, after that blasted pause, they said, the orchestra that will not be carrying on will be the People's Orchestra.
Dan, I'm really sorry. It's been a great pleasure to have you on board, and you've gone so far in this. Really, really well done. Sarah, thanks very much.
Not a problem,
You have a
guys.
fantastic bunch. Thanks a lot.
Hey-ho, I was gutted, but I was really, really pleased with the way the orchestra came together. Everybody supported each other, everybody worked really, really, really hard. And I think what we did in that programme was something to be really proud of. One of my personal highlights from that whole process was I got to have a waltz with Katie Derham, so that was all good. So I remember turning up late to that particular concert because I'd just spent a week with my youth orchestra doing a tour abroad to Italy, I think, if I remember rightly, and had only got back on the same afternoon as the concert, and I was absolutely shattered. But luckily Craig was very, very good, and he took some of the rehearsal for me whilst I was still making my way over.
Stay close. Assess threats and find your exit.
I know the drill, Nathan. It's always the same.
So we did this new piece with a click track and all sorts of technology called Cable Chronicles of Hope, an X-Men soundtrack that John had put together. And I mean, talk about cables! All over the stage, there was so much technology, and I remember that particular concert we were running right up to the edge, or right up to the end. But it was real success, and it always is, and everybody works really, really hard, and the concert went.
So, I have a particular instrument that I use when I conduct the orchestra. Have you any idea what that's called? What does it look like? A stick? Or a wand? Yeah, why don't we call it our wand, our magic wand? We'll call it our magic wand. And when we pass over the wand, we have to do a very, very dignified ceremony. We bow. Pass the ceremony, pass the wand, and my glasses fall off my face. It's not a complete ceremony unless my glasses have fallen off my face.
We were playing in the foyer in Symphony Hall, so you had all this great light coming in through the big window, and it worked really, really well on the coloured t-shirts and everything. And there were people milling around and kids coming up, and we gave them the opportunity to sort of conduct the orchestra. So I gave them a very, very quick conducting lesson, and got them to stand in front of the orchestra and conduct, and that was an awful lot of fun. They conducted, what did they conduct? They conducted, what did we do? The Muppet Show, they conducted the Muppet Show, they conducted the Arrival of the Queen of Sheba, and a few other pieces that were in our programme. But it wasn't just kids, there was adults too, and getting them to sort of conduct really, really, really small to make it quiet, and then to go mental to make it really, really loud, or to speed up stuff, and that was lots of fun. I like doing that. Engaging people in conducting. People think they can't do it, and most of the time they're right, but it's still good fun to try. At the end of 2017 or early 2018, a chap called Dean Williams from Montreal got in touch with Sarah because he wanted to organise an exchange visit between his orchestra, the Orchestra Philharmonie Mundi de Montreal, over in Canada with a European orchestra, and he'd looked around a few, but was really grasped by the concept of TPO and made contact with Sarah to see if any kind of exchange could be made. And they ran with the idea. We invited the orchestra, our orchestra, to see who would be interested in taking part, and luckily everybody was really on board with the idea. So this all culminated towards the end of July, beginning of August, when 20 or so of the Canadian orchestra visited TPO and spent the week with us rehearsing and making cultural visits and spending time with each other. It was really a lot of fun to collaborate with an orchestra from another part of the world, a very long way away, and some of them were, or most of them, had excellent English speaking skills. Many of them, their first language was French. But what was really nice was the way that when we were playing together, we were rehearsing together, we were working with the same language of music, and what way to bring international friends together than to play a concert together. One particular highlight during the concert, well, not really a highlight but more of a memory, was that whilst we were playing Back to the Future, the fire alarm went off in West Bromwich Town Hall and we were all evacuated outside. The big irony for me was that when we got back on stage, after the very supportive audience really cheered us on to carry on with our concert, but we had to replay Back to the Future, which still makes me laugh really. But it was a superb concert and we made lots of friends, and the orchestra are already underway in making plans to visit Canada next year. I've spent 3 years with the People's Orchestra, and I feel thoroughly blessed to have been able to be the conductor of the orchestra over those last few years. Everybody has such a kind-hearted community feel behind all of their intentions and their actions. And to be able to be the conductor and to stand in front of them and work with them and make music with them in rehearsals, and in all the planning with Sarah, and then going through to the actual concerts, where we always have a very supportive audience, has been a real joy for me, and I'll treasure those memories. I'm hoping to come back and visit again. I don't think Sarah's going to let me get off that easily, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I want to wish Rob the best for his time here.
I do believe this is Dan's final concert with the People's Orchestra. I think they have something to say.